The rain was merciless that night. Thunder cracked across the dark sky as the streets of the small town turned into rivers of mud and waste. In the corner of an abandoned alley beneath a broken piece of tin, a weak whimper echoed, faint but desperate. It was a stray dog, trembling, drenched, and struggling to protect her newborn puppies from the cold storm. Her name was Luna. Her thin frame showed years of hunger and hardship, yet her eyes held something unbreakable, a mother's love. She curled her body tightly around her shivering babies, shielding them from the freezing rain. But as the night grew darker, the floodwater began to rise, inch by inch toward her tiny family. The next morning, a young man named Aram was walking to work when he heard faint cries coming from the alley. He followed the sound and froze. Beneath the twisted tin sheet, a weak mother dog was lying still, her body trembling, her newborn pups huddled against her. "Hey! Oh no! Please hang in there," he whispered. Without a second thought, Aram took off his jacket, wrapped the puppies, and gently lifted Luna into his arms. He rushed them to a nearby animal shelter. The vet's face turned grim. "These puppies are just a few hours old. The mother has hypothermia, and she hasn't eaten in days." Aram's heart sank. He refused to give up. The next few days were a battle between life and death. Luna's body was weak, and 2 of her puppies didn't make it through the night. Aram spent sleepless hours by her side, feeding her with a dropper, whispering softly, "We're not alone anymore." The surviving puppies started to open their tiny eyes, fragile, innocent, and full of hope. Luna slowly began to regain her strength, licking them tenderly, as if promising never to let harm come again. But the shelter was overcrowded. The vet told Aram if no one adopts them soon, they might have to be released back to the streets. Aram's heart ached. He couldn't let that happen. Weeks passed. Luna and her 3 surviving puppies grew stronger each day. The once scared mother now wagged her tail whenever Aram entered the room. One morning as he fed them, Luna did something that melted his heart. She gently placed her paw on his arm and looked into his eyes as if to say thank you. That moment changed everything. Aram decided to take them home. His small apartment soon became filled with laughter, barking, and love. The puppies grew up healthy, playful, and safe, each one a living reminder of how kindness can rewrite destiny. Luna's story spread online after Aram shared her rescue video. People around the world were touched. Many even started adopting stray animals, inspired by her will to survive. From a cold, forgotten alley to a warm, loving home, Luna's journey became more than just a rescue story. It became a lesson in compassion, proof that even in the darkest moments, love and hope can spark a miracle. The morning sun painted the sky gold as Luna lay peacefully beside her puppies in Aram's small apartment. For the first time in her life, she wasn't cold or hungry. The little ones were now strong enough to wobble on their paws, chasing each other around the room while Luna watched them with pride. Aram smiled. He had never known how deeply a rescued animal could change someone's heart. Every bark, every wag of Luna's tail filled his life with warmth. But peace, as he would soon learn, doesn't always last forever. One afternoon, as Aram returned from the market, he noticed Luna wasn't at the door. The puppies whimpered softly. She was gone. He ran through the streets calling her name. Hours passed before he spotted her in a nearby park, weak, limping, and bleeding slightly from her paw. It seemed someone had tried to scare her away with stones when she wandered too far from home. Aram's anger turned to heartbreak. He carried her home, whispering, "You're safe now, Luna. No one will hurt you again." But that night, Luna's breathing became heavy. She refused to eat. The vet said she might have an infection from the wound. The puppies cried as if they knew their mother was in pain. Aram stayed by her side all night, tears in his eyes, begging her not to give up. For days, Luna fought. The infection spread, and she grew weaker. The vet said it would take a miracle for her to recover. Aram refused to leave her side. He hand-fed the puppies, cleaned her wounds, and played her favorite soft music. Then, on the 5th night, something changed. Luna opened her eyes and licked Aram's hand. Her tail wagged faintly for the first time in days. It was as if she was saying, "I'm not giving up. Not yet." Slowly, day by day, Luna began to heal. Her strength returned, and the sparkle in her eyes came back. She started walking again, carefully at first, then proudly, her puppies chasing after her. Months later, Luna and her puppies were unrecognizable. They were healthy, strong, and joyful, a living miracle. Aram built a small fenced garden behind his house where they could run freely. Every evening, Luna would sit beside him, watching her puppies play. The same street dog who once hid under a tin sheet, now living like a queen. But the most touching moment came when Aram opened the shelter's website and saw hundreds of comments from people saying, "Because of Luna's story, I rescued a dog too." Luna's pain had become her power. Her survival inspired thousands to see stray dogs not as problems, but as lives worth saving. The days had turned into months, and the tiny newborn puppies that once fit in Aram's palms were now full of life, playful, strong, and curious. Their small garden had become a playground of joy, wagging tails, excited barks, and Luna watching proudly like a true mother. She was no longer the broken, frightened stray from the alley. She had become a symbol of love, hope, and strength, not just for her puppies, but for everyone who knew her story. One morning, the vet called Aram. "There are families who want to adopt Luna's puppies," he said gently. Aram's heart sank. He knew this day would come, but he wasn't ready. Each puppy had its own little personality. The brave one who always led, the shy one who hid behind Luna, and the playful one who never stopped wagging his tail. That evening, he sat beside Luna. "They'll have good lives," he whispered, "just like you deserve." As if understanding, Luna placed her head on his lap, her eyes filled with quiet acceptance. The adoption day arrived. The first puppy went to a young girl who had always dreamed of a dog. The shy one found a home with an elderly couple who promised to give her endless love. The last puppy, the playful one, went to a small family who had recently lost their pet. Each goodbye was painful, yet beautiful. That beautiful made sure every family understood Luna's story, the story of a mother's courage that had changed everything. After the last puppy left, Luna sat by the door, looking out quietly. For days, she would listen for the sound of their tiny barks, but soon she began to rest peacefully again. She knew her babies were safe. As Luna healed, she began visiting the animal shelter with Aram. Her gentle presence comforted new rescued dogs who trembled with fear. The shelter staff started calling her a Mama Luna, a guardian for the lost and broken. Whenever new dogs arrived, hungry, scared, or injured, Luna would walk up to them, nuzzle them softly, and lie beside them until they calmed down. Her story spread even more widely online. People across the world began donating to shelters, adopting strays, and even volunteering. Luna had unknowingly started a movement, a wave of compassion that reached hearts everywhere. One golden evening, Aram sat in the garden with Luna beside him. Her fur glowed under the setting sun, and the air was filled with peace. He looked at her and smiled. "You changed everything, Luna. You showed the world what love really means." Luna wagged her tail, her eyes gentle and full of understanding. The years passed softly. The garden that once echoed with playful barks now felt quieter. Luna had grown older, her muzzle silver, her pace slower, but her eyes still shone with the same warmth and wisdom. Aram still called her his little miracle. Every evening they sat together watching the sunset, both remembering those early days of rescue, pain, and hope. But life, as it often does, had one more chapter written for them, a chapter that neither of them expected. One cold evening, the sound of barking came from outside the house. Luna lifted her head, her ears twitching. The bark was faint but familiar. Something deep inside her stirred. Aram walked out and froze. Standing by the gate was a young, strong German Shepherd mix, his fur matted from the rain, his eyes nervous yet kind. He had a slight scar near his paw, the same spot Luna's puppies once had when they played in the garden years ago. Aram opened the gate slowly. The dog didn't run. Instead, he wagged his tail gently and looked past Aram, straight at Luna, and looked past Aram, straight at Luna. She stood up slowly, her legs trembling, and walked toward him. Then it happened. The young dog barked softly, then pressed his head against hers. Luna's tail wagged weakly, tears filling Aram's eyes. "It can't be! You came back," he whispered. It was one of Luna's puppies, now fully grown, returned home after years of separation. From that day, the once quiet garden came alive again. Luna and her grown son, whom Aram named Shadow, became inseparable. He followed her everywhere, sleeping beside her, guarding her, playing with her gently as if remembering he was once the small pup she protected under the rain. Aram often watched them with awe. "It's like he knew where his mother was," he said softly. "A love finds its way home." Even the shelter workers who visited couldn't believe the reunion. The microchip data confirmed it. Shadow was one of Luna's original puppies, adopted years ago by a family that later moved away. Somehow, when he was lost, his heart led him back home. As months passed, Luna began to slow down. Her fur turned whiter, her steps weaker, but her spirit remained unbroken. Shadow stayed beside her, always, never leaving her side. One evening, under a soft orange sunset, Luna lay in the garden surrounded by flowers. Aram sat beside her, holding her gently. Shadow rested his head next to hers. Oh! She looked up at Aram one last time, her eyes peaceful, her tail wagging faintly, and then with a deep sigh she closed her eyes. The garden fell silent, except for the soft cry of Shadow. Tears rolled down Aram's cheeks, but there was peace in his heart. Luna had not died alone. She had lived, loved, remembered, and fulfilled. Months later, Aram started a foundation in her name, a Luna's Light, to help rescue and shelter stray dogs around the world. Shadow became the symbol of the organization, representing loyalty and love that never fades. People everywhere shared Luna's story of a stray dog who became a mother, a hero, and a legend. The morning sun rose softly over Aram's house, filling the garden with golden light. Shadow lay beside a small stone marked with a single name, Luna. He had not left that spot since the day she passed. Sometimes he would rest his head near the stone, as if waiting for her to wake up. But this wasn't sadness anymore. It was love, a love that had shaped him, a love that would soon guide him to his own destiny. One stormy evening, Aram heard faint crying from outside the gate. Shadow's ears perked up immediately, the same way Luna once did years ago. Without hesitation, he ran into the rain. There, under a broken wooden crate, was a tiny puppy, shivering, weak, and terrified. Shadow sniffed the little one, nudged it softly, then barked toward the house. Ran out and froze. It was as if history was repeating itself. Just like Luna once rescued her puppies from the storm, now her son was doing the same. Shadow looked up at Aram with determined eyes, as if saying, "Hey, we can't leave this one behind." Aram picked up the trembling puppy and wrapped it in a towel. Inside the house, Shadow stayed close, licking the tiny one's face gently, keeping it warm. The vet said the puppy had been abandoned, only a few days old, with little chance of survival. But Aram smiled. If Luna could make it, so can this one. Night after night, Shadow lay beside the puppy, sharing his warmth, protecting it, the way Luna once did for him. Slowly, the little one opened its eyes. Shadow barked softly, his tail wagging, proud, protective, and full of life. Weeks passed. The puppy grew stronger, chasing after Shadow in the garden. Aram named her Hope. Shadow had become everything Luna once was, a guardian, a teacher, and a symbol of compassion. He would often take Hope to Luna's memorial stone, lying quietly beside it, as if telling his mother, "Don't worry, I'm continuing what you started." Aram watched them, tears in his eyes. "This isn't just rescue anymore," he whispered. "It's a family legacy. It's a family legacy." As Luna's story spread, Luna's Light Foundation grew into a worldwide movement. Shelters were built in her name. Thousands of stray dogs were rescued. Shadow and Hope became the faces of the foundation, featured in posters, rescue videos, and schools teaching children about kindness to animals. From one stray mother's courage had risen a chain of compassion, touching hearts across the world. In the golden light of another sunset, Aram sat on the porch watching Shadow and Hope play in the garden. The wind rustled the flowers around Luna's stone. He smiled softly. "You did it, Luna. Nana, your love didn't end. It became a promise." The camera would slowly pan up to the sky, the sun dipping low, the world glowing warm. As Luna's voice echoes faintly, "Every act of love creates another. Never stop saving hearts." The world had changed since Luna's time. Her name had become a symbol. Luna's Light now shone in shelters across countries, rescuing thousands of strays. And in the heart of that legacy stood Hope, Luna's granddaughter, born from the love and courage that began generations ago. Hope wasn't just another dog. She carried Luna's eyes, kind, watchful, and brave. Shadow had raised her well, teaching her how to listen to fear, how to protect the weak, and how to love without condition. But destiny, once again, had something extraordinary planned. It was late evening. Thunder rolled across the sky as heavy rain poured down. Hope and Aram were driving back from the shelter when Hope suddenly began barking frantically. Aram slowed the car. Through the blur of rain, he saw a small figure, a lost little girl, no more than 6 years old, standing alone near the riverbank. The current was fierce, and she was slipping closer to the edge. Before Aram could open the door, Hope jumped out into the storm. "Hope, wait, wait, wait!" he shouted, but she was already gone. Racing toward the girl through the mud and rain, The girl screamed as the earth beneath her gave way. Hope lunged forward, grabbing her coat sleeve gently in her teeth and pulling with all her strength. Aram reached them just in time, grabbing both and pulling them to safety. They collapsed together in the rain, Hope panting hard, her body trembling, but the little girl was safe. At the hospital, the girl's mother wept with gratitude. "Oh, she was missing for hours," she cried. "If it weren't for your dog." But Aram just smiled, looking at Hope, soaked and exhausted yet wagging her tail. "She learned from the best," he whispered softly. The story spread quickly, and news channels called Hope of the dog who saved a child from drowning. The video went viral across the world. People remembered Luna again, the stray mother who once saved her puppies, whose love had started this chain of miracles. A few weeks later, Aram stood before a crowd at a new animal shelter, the 6th branch of Luna's Light Foundation, named Hope's Haven. Behind him, Hope stood proudly wearing a small medal around her neck. "She reminds us," Aram said to the crowd, "that heroes don't need capes. Sometimes they're born in the streets, raised by love and guided by the souls who came before." The audience erupted in applause as Hope barked, wagging her tail, a living symbol of everything Luna had stood for. As the sun dipped low, Aram, Shadow, and Hope walked together through the garden where Luna was buried. The wind carried the soft scent of flowers, and the world seemed to glow in shades of gold and peace. Aram placed his hand on the stone marked to Luna, the light that never fades. He smiled through tears. "Your love didn't just change my life, Luna. It changed the world." Hope looked up at the sky, barking once, as if she could feel her grandmother watching from above. The screen slowly faded to black with the words, "Every act of kindness lives forever. Be someone's Luna. Red Paw."